Thomas Reed stood at the viewing window of his small trading ship, watching the massive galactic trade hub grow larger against the backdrop of stars. His hands were sweaty as he gripped the datapad containing his cargo manifest. Third-generation metals trader or not, this was his first time beyond the solar system, and the huge alien station made him feel smaller than ever. Approaching docking bay 247B, the ship's AI announced, "Please prepare for standard gravity adjustment." The ship's magnetic clamps engaged with a loud thunk, and Reed took a deep breath. In the cargo hold behind him sat 50 tons of refined lead, what his grandfather would have called a modest shipment, but it was all he could afford for this first venture into galactic trade. As he stepped out of his ship, the alien atmosphere hit him. Not the air, his environmental suit took care of that, but the sheer variety of life forms moving through the docking bay. Tall, short, floating, crawling. Species he couldn't even begin to describe were going about their business as if this was the most normal thing in the world. A blue-skinned dock officer approached him. Translator device humming. "Manifest and trading license, please." Reed handed over his datapad, trying to keep his hand steady. The officer's four eyes widened as they scanned the contents. This cannot be correct," the officer said, mandibles clicking rapidly. 50 tons of refined lead. "Yes, that's right," Reed replied, his heart sinking. Maybe he should have brought copper instead. "Is there a problem?" The officer's skin shifted to a lighter shade of blue. "Please wait here." They hurried away, speaking rapidly into a communication device. Within minutes, Reed found himself surrounded by what he could only assume were port authorities. Their questions came rapid fire through their translators. "You extracted this much lead from a single planet. Your species routinely mines these quantities. How do you handle the extreme rarity?" Reed blinked in confusion. "Rarity? Lead is one of the most common heavy metals on Earth. We've been mining it for thousands of years." The silence that followed was deafening. The aliens looked at each other, their translators working overtime to handle their rapid communications. Finally, one stepped forward, a tall, crystalline being who seemed to be in charge. "Mr. Reed, what you consider common is extremely valuable in the wider galaxy. Lead, in its refined form, is a crucial component in modern shield technology and neural interfaces. Most species find it extremely difficult to mine and process." Reed's mind raced. He had chosen lead because it was cheap and plentiful, a safe test cargo for his first galactic trade mission. What would you consider a fair price for my shipment?" The numbers they showed him made his jaw drop. It was enough to buy a small fleet of ships like his. As the crystalline being explained the current market rates, Reed's trader instincts kicked in. He remembered his grandfather's words, "Never show surprise at a price, boy. That's the fastest way to lose a deal." He straightened his back. "Those rates seem a bit low, considering the quality of the refinement. Earth's processing methods are quite advanced." It was a bluff. Earth's methods were probably primitive by galactic standards, but they didn't know that. The aliens huddled again, their colors and shapes shifting in what Reed guessed was agitation. When they came back, the offered price had doubled. By the end of the day, Reed had sold his cargo for enough to buy 3 top-of-the-line trading ships, with plenty left over for his next cargo run. As he sat in his ship's cabin that night, preparing for the return journey to Earth, he couldn't stop grinning. They thought lead was rare. Lead? What would they make of Earth's other metals? Of iron, aluminum, or copper? His mind spun with possibilities. Reed opened a new file on his datapad and began typing. Proposal for the Earth Metals Trading Corporation. Humanity was sitting on a gold mine, or more accurately, a lead mine. And they didn't even know it. But they would soon, and nothing in the galaxy would be the same. 6 months after his first deal, Thomas Reed stood in his new office aboard the Galactic Trade Hub, watching ships dock and depart through the massive window. The Earth Metals Trading Corporation logo glowed softly on the wall behind him, a simple design showing Earth's continents in gold against a starry background. "Sir," his alien assistant Max, a shortened name they had chosen after Reed failed to pronounce their full name, floated into the room. "The Merchant Guild representatives are here." Reed nodded, straightening his jacket. "Send them in." 5 members of the Galactic Merchant Guild entered, each from a different species. Their fancy environmental suits and decorated translator devices showed their high status. The leader, a tall insectoid being, stepped forward. "Mr. Reed," the translator crackled, "your operation is causing serious concerns among established trading houses." Reed gestured to the seats around the conference table. "Please sit. Would anyone like refreshments? We just received a shipment of Earth water." The guild members shifted uncomfortably at the mention of Earth goods. Over the past months, Reed had introduced not just metals but other Earth commodities to the galactic market. Each one had caused its own small earthquake in the trading community. "Mr. Reed," the insectoid continued, "you have crashed the lead market. Prices are down 80% from last year. 12 trading houses have filed for bankruptcy." Reed pulled up a holographic display showing market trends. "I prefer to say we've corrected an artificial scarcity. Earth can supply all the leave the galaxy needs at fair prices. Everyone benefits from lower costs. Everyone except the established traders." A crystalline being chimed in. "This council moves to restrict Earth's trading rights. One planet cannot be allowed to destabilize centuries of market balance." Reed had expected this. He pressed a button on his desk, and new images appeared in the holographic display. "These are the representatives of 20 smaller trading species I met with last week. Species that your guild has kept out of the major markets for centuries." The guild members bristled as they recognized their former competitors. "They've all agreed to join the new Independent Trading Alliance," Reed continued. "With Earth as the primary supplier, they'll finally have the resources to compete fairly. Unless, of course, the guild would prefer to discuss more favorable terms for everyone." The room grew tense as the guild members conferred in hushed tones. Reed waited patiently, remembering his father's advice about negotiations. The first one to speak loses. Finally, the insectoid turned back to him. "What terms do you propose?" Reed smiled. "The guild maintains its position, but agrees to accept new members recommended by the Alliance. In return, Earth provides preferential pricing to guild members who support the changes. And if we refuse?" Then tomorrow, Earth announces a 90% price reduction on copper, iron, and aluminum. I wonder how many more trading houses would survive that. The negotiations lasted 4 more hours, but Reed knew he had won in that first exchange. As the guild members left, Max floated back in. "They agree to everything," the assistant said, their color shifting to show excitement. Reed nodded, looking out at the stars again. They had to. The old way of doing things, keeping resources artificially rare, maintaining power through scarcity, it was never going to last. Earth isn't just bringing new resources to the galaxy. We're bringing new ways of thinking about trade. He turned back to his desk and began preparing messages to Earth. They would need to increase production significantly to meet the coming demand. But more importantly, humanity had just taken its first real step into galactic politics. "Max," he said, "schedule calls with our new alliance partners. It's time to start planning the next phase." The assistant bobbed in agreement and floated out, leaving Reed to watch the endless stream of ships against the stars. The galaxy was changing, and humanity was just getting started. The warning sirens woke Thomas Reed at 3 a.m. Earth time. He rushed to his office on the trade hub, still pulling on his jacket. The holographic display was lit up with red warning signals around Earth's solar system. "Status report," he barked as Max floated in behind him. 3 trading consortiums have launched a joint fleet," Max said, their color a worried purple. "They're heading for Earth's mining operations on Mars and the Moon. Their public statement claims they're safeguarding crucial galactic resources from irresponsible management." Reed's jaw tightened. He'd expected something like this, but not so soon. "Get me Earth Defense Command." The holographic display shifted to show Admiral Jones, her face grim. "We saw them. Read. 200 ships at least. Old guard traders who don't like the new way of doing things, I take it. They think we'll be an easy target," Reed replied. "They've convinced themselves that our primitive technology won't stand a chance against their advanced ships." The Admiral smiled, but there was no humor in it. "Well, we've got a few surprises for them. You didn't think we spent the last year just mining metals, did we?" The alien fleet approached with what they thought was overwhelming force. Their ships were larger, their shields more advanced, their weapons supposedly superior. They expected Earth's defenses to crumble quickly. They didn't expect what happened next. Reed watched from the trade hub's observation deck as the battle unfolded. Earth's ships were smaller, yes, but there were more of them. Much more. The mining operations had been producing ships along with metals, hidden in the asteroid belt. "They're launching something," Max reported, watching the tactical display. "The alien fleet. They're confused. Their sensors can't get a proper reading." Reed nodded. "Railguns. Mechanical weapons. No energy signature to detect. Just good old-fashioned physics." The alien ship's advanced shields had been designed to stop energy weapons and plasma bolts. They weren't prepared for chunks of metal moving at relativistic speeds. The first volley tore through their front line like paper. "Impossible," one of the alien commanders broadcast on an open channel. "Their weapons are primitive." "Primitive doesn't mean ineffective," Reed muttered, watching as Earth's forces pressed their advantage. The battle lasted less than 6 hours. When it was over, the alien fleet was in ruins. Earth had lost ships too, but the victory was decisive. As survivors retreated, Reed received urgent messages from dozens of trading houses and political entities. He took the calls in his office, Max organizing them by priority. The message from everyone was the same. How had humanity hidden such military capability? What other surprises did Earth have? "We didn't hide anything," Reed told them all. "You just assumed that because our technology was different, it was inferior. A railgun might be simpler than a plasma cannon, but physics doesn't care about complexity." By the end of the day, Reed's inbox was flooded with requests for trade deals, political alliances, and technology exchanges. The Independent Trading Alliance's membership applications doubled overnight. Admiral Jones called again as things were quieting down. "Well, that should keep them thinking twice about trying anything like this again. By the way, my engineers are fascinated by some of the alien ship debris we collected. Think we can work something out?" Reed smiled. "I'm sure we can arrange something mutually beneficial. After all, that's what trade is all about." Later, alone in his office, Reed added a new entry to his personal log. "Today marks a turning point. They tried to use force to maintain the old system, to keep humanity in its place. Instead, they learned what Earth has known for centuries. Sometimes the simplest solutions are the most effective. The galaxy is changing, and now everyone knows that humanity isn't just another primitive species to be exploited. We're here to stay." Thomas Reed adjusted his tie as he walked down the gleaming hallway of the Galactic Council chamber. The massive doors ahead of him were carved from materials found on 100 different worlds. Max floated beside him, carrying data tablets and looking more nervous than usual. "The Council hasn't allowed a new species representative in 50 years, Max whispered, their color shifting to anxious yellow. "Are you sure about this?" Reed nodded. "They don't have much choice. After the resource war, they need to either make us official partners or admit they're powerless to stop us." The doors swung open. Inside, the council chamber stretched up hundreds of meters, with floating platforms holding representatives from the galaxy's most powerful species. Reed walked to the center platform, trying not to show how impressed he was. The head counselor, a being made of shifting light and crystal, spoke first. "Thomas Reed of Earth. You come before us without an official title or position." "I come as a trader," Reed replied, his voice firm. "Just as I have always been. Earth doesn't believe in fancy titles." A murmur ran through the chamber. Max's color shifted rapidly between worried shades. "You defeated 3 of our strongest trading consortiums," another counselor said. "Your primitive weapons proved surprisingly effective. Some suggest this makes Earth a threat to galactic peace." Reed smiled. "With respect, Earth has only defended itself. We've never attacked first. Our real power isn't in our weapons. It's in our ability to trade fairly with everyone, not just the powerful." He gestured, and Max projected a hologram showing trade routes across the galaxy. Since Earth joined the galactic community, overall trade has increased by 300%. Small species that were once locked out of the market now have access to resources they need. The galaxy is becoming more prosperous for everyone. "Not for everyone," a third counselor interrupted. "The old trading houses had to adapt," Reed finished, "just as we all must adapt. Earth brings change, yes, but change brings opportunity. The Independent Trading Alliance has proven that." The chamber grew quiet as Reed continued. "You can either fight this change and watch your influence fade, or embrace it and help shape the new galactic economy. Earth requests a seat on this council, not to gain power, but to help create a fairer system for all species." The council members conferred in private channels for several minutes. Reed stood calmly, remembering his grandfather's words about patience in negotiations. Finally, the head counselor spoke again. "Your argument has merit, but council membership requires more than economic power. You must prove Earth can contribute to galactic culture and progress." Reed had expected this. Earth has already begun sharing its scientific and cultural achievements. "Did you know that human music has become popular in the Outer Rim? Our art is displayed in galleries on 50 worlds. Our engineering principles are being taught in schools across the galaxy." He paused, then added, "And that's just the beginning. Humanity's greatest strength isn't our weapons or our resources. It's our endless drive to innovate and improve." The council chambers erupted in discussion. When order returned, the head counselor made the announcement. Earth would be granted provisional council membership, with full status to be decided in 1 standard year. Later, in his office, Reed looked out at the stars while Max organized congratulatory messages. "Sir," Max said, "you've achieved something incredible. Earth is now a real power in the galaxy." Reed shook his head. "No, Max. We've just taken the first step. Real power isn't about having a seat at the table. It's about what you do with it. And humanity is just getting started." He turned back to his desk and began drafting plans for Earth's first year on the council. The real work was just beginning. Thomas Reed walked through the massive research facility that Earth had built on the moon, watching teams of humans and aliens working side by side. His assistant Max floated nearby, taking notes as various project leaders approached them. "Mr. Reed," called out Dr. Wilson, rushing over with excitement in her eyes. "You need to see this. We've done it." She led them to a testing chamber where a small ship hung in zero gravity. It looked strange, a mix of smooth alien metals and rough human engineering. Parts of it seemed to be made from what looked like ordinary steel. "Is this the hybrid drive project?" Reed asked, remembering the billions he'd invested in this seemingly impossible idea. "Yes, sir," Dr. Wilson beamed. "We combined our simple rocket technology with alien gravity drives. Watch this." She pressed a button, and the ship's engines came to life. A mix of blue alien energy and orange rocket flame pulsed together, creating a new kind of propulsion. "The aliens always thought rocket fuel was too primitive," she explained. "But when we combined it with their gravity tech, something amazing happened. This ship can travel twice as fast as pure alien drives, using half the energy." Reed smiled. It was happening exactly as he'd hoped. "How soon can we start production?" "That's the best part," Dr. Wilson said. "Because we're using simple materials, we can start building these engines next month. The aliens' pure energy drives take years to make. Ours take weeks." Max's color shifted to excited green. Sir, the trade implications will change everything. Reed finished. Again. Throughout the facility, similar breakthroughs were happening. Human engineers looked at alien technology differently than anyone else in the galaxy. Where aliens sought complex, elegant solutions, humans found simple, effective ones. In another lab, they had solved the galaxy's food storage problem by combining alien stasis fields with basic refrigeration. Down the hall, someone had fixed a centuries-old issue with alien communications by adding old-fashioned radio waves to the mix. Reed's tablet beeped with an urgent message. The Galactic Science Council wanted an emergency meeting. He wasn't surprised. News of Earth's breakthroughs had been spreading fast. In his office overlooking the lunar surface, Reed took the video call. 5 of the galaxy's top scientists appeared on his screen, all looking somewhat confused. "Mr. Reed," the lead scientist began, "your people are solving problems that have stumped us for centuries. How is this possible?" Reed thought about it. "I think it's because we're not trapped by advanced thinking. We see your amazing technology and think, how can we make this work better with what we know? Instead of trying to make perfect solutions, we make practical ones. But using primitive materials with advanced technology, it shouldn't work." Another scientist protested. "But it does work," Reed replied. "Sometimes the old ways and the new ways are better together. That's what Earth brings to the galaxy, a fresh perspective." After the call, Reed walked to his window and looked at Earth hanging in the black sky. Max floated up beside him. "The patent office is overwhelmed," Max reported. "Everyone wants to license our hybrid technologies, and more aliens are asking to join our research teams every day." Reed nodded. "Send out an announcement. Earth Metals Trading Corporation is changing its name to Earth Innovation Systems. We're not just traders anymore. We're builders of the future." As he watched the sun rise over Earth's curved surface, Reed thought about how far they'd come. From selling lead to reshaping galactic technology, humanity had proven that being primitive wasn't a weakness. It was their greatest strength. "Max," he said, "schedule a meeting with the development team. I have some ideas about combining Earth's old steam engine principles with alien power systems. The galaxy would never be the same, and that was exactly what humanity did best: change things for the better." Thomas Reed sat in his office on Earth, watching multiple holographic screens showing chaos across the galaxy. The old powers had finally made their move. Max floated frantically between screens, their color a deep worried red. "They'd frozen all our trading accounts," Max reported. "The old Council Alliance is blocking our ships from major trade routes. They're trying to cut Earth off from the galaxy." Reed remained calm, sipping his coffee. "How many of our allies have they approached?" "All of them. They're offering exclusive trading rights if they abandon Earth." Max's color shifted to surprised blue when Reed smiled. "Sir, this seems very bad. Why are you smiling?" "Because they've finally shown their hand," Reed replied. "And it's exactly what we expected." He pressed a button on his desk. "Execute Operation New Dawn." Across the galaxy, things began to happen. First, hundreds of supposedly stranded Earth ships activated their new hybrid drives. The old Council's blockade had been designed to stop ships using traditional alien engines. Earth's vessels simply switched to their backup rocket systems and slicked right through. "Sir, reports coming in," Max announced. "Our ships are reaching all their targets. The backup trading routes are active." Reed nodded. These smaller, previously unused routes had been prepared for months, connecting Earth's allies through paths the old powers had always ignored as inefficient. "Phase 2, Reed ordered. Throughout the galaxy, Earth's allies began announcing their discoveries. The smaller trading species had been secretly learning Earth's hybrid technologies. Now they suddenly revealed their own new ships, new factories, and new trading networks, all built using Earth's innovations. The old Council's control was built on keeping advanced technology rare and expensive, but Earth's simple, effective solutions were already spreading faster than they could control. They're calling an emergency council session, Max reported. Demanding Earth's representatives appear to answer charges of economic terrorism. Reed straightened his tie. Well, we shouldn't keep them waiting. In the council chamber, the old powers rage. How dare Earth spread its technology without permission? How dare they help smaller species bypass traditional authority? Reed waited for them to finish, then stood calmly. You speak of tradition and authority. But what has that tradition given the galaxy? Artificial scarcity. Controlled progress. Earth believes in something different. Opportunity for everyone. He gestured, and Max displayed the latest economic data. Your blockade was supposed to crush us. Instead, trade along our new routes has already surpassed the old networks. Our allies aren't just surviving, they're thriving. This is chaos, the head counselor shouted. You're destroying centuries of order. No, Reed corrected. We're replacing control with cooperation. Earth doesn't want to rule the galaxy. We want to help it grow. He looked around the chamber. The choice is yours. Continue fighting the future or help us build it. One by one, members of the old council began to shift their positions. They'd seen the numbers. They'd seen Earth's success. Fighting it was becoming more costly than accepting change. Later that night, Reed stood in his Earth office, watching the sun set over the Pacific Ocean. Max displayed messages from across the galaxy. Trade deals being renegotiated, technology sharing agreements being signed, new alliances forming. It worked, Max said softly. They really backed down. Reed shook his head. They didn't back down. They finally understood. Earth never wanted to defeat them. We wanted to show them a better way. He turned to his desk and began drafting plans for the next phase. The old power structure was crumbling, yes, but the real challenge was just beginning, building something better in its place. The galaxy is entering a new age, Max, Reed said. And this time, everyone gets a chance to help shape it. 10 years after the Great Shift, Thomas Reed stood at the window of his new office in the Global Trade Center in New Delhi. The massive building, a blend of Earth architecture and alien engineering, stretched a kilometer into the sky. Ships from 100 worlds moved through the air around it, their hybrid drives glowing with the familiar mix of rocket fire and alien energy. Max, now upgraded with the latest human-alien tech, but still preferring their original floating form, approached with the daily reports. Their color showed the calm blue of a peaceful morning. Hard to believe it all started with a cargo of lead, Reed said, more to himself than to Max. Actually, sir, Max replied, it started with an idea, that everyone deserves a chance to trade fairly. Reed smiled. Earth had changed. The whole galaxy had changed. Where once there had been a strict hierarchy of species and trading houses, now there was an open network of cooperation and commerce. Earth had become the heart of this new system, not because they conquered or controlled, but because they connected. The door chimed, and a group of alien students entered, part of the new galactic exchange program. They were young traders and engineers from various species, coming to learn Earth's unique approach to problem solving. Mr. Reed, one of them said, their translator making the words sound eager, we're honored to meet you. Your story is taught in schools across the galaxy now. Reed gestured for them to sit. Tell me, what do they teach about Earth in your worlds? A crystalline being spoke up first. They say humans achieved in decades what other species couldn't do in centuries. That you changed everything by thinking differently. Not just thinking differently, Reed corrected, by sharing our thoughts with others. Every species has something to teach and something to learn. He walked to a display case on the wall, picking up an old datavat. This contains my first cargo manifest, 50 tons of lead. Back then, some called Earth primitive because we still used simple metals and basic rockets. He set the datapad down carefully. But being primitive wasn't a weakness. It meant we could see solutions that others had overlooked. Simple isn't the same as wrong. Sometimes the old ways and the new ways work better together. The students took notes eagerly as Reed continued. Today, ships use hybrid drives that combine rocket fuel with gravity fields. Hospitals use both advanced alien healing tech and traditional Earth medicine. Buildings like this one mix concrete and steel with alien materials. The galaxy is stronger because we learn to combine our knowledge instead of ranking it. Max's color shifted to reflect the morning sunlight as they displayed the latest trade figures. Earth's influence now reached every corner of known space, but it wasn't the influence of an empire. It was the influence of an idea. That progress comes from cooperation, not control. Sir, Max interrupted gently, the new Galactic Council is ready for your final address. Reed nodded. After 20 years, he was finally retiring from his position as Earth's chief representative. It was time for new leaders with new ideas to take humanity's story forward. One last piece of advice, he told the students as he prepared to leave. Remember that the greatest discoveries often come from the simplest questions. Never be afraid to suggest a basic solution to a complex problem. And never look down on someone just because they do things differently. As he walked to the council chamber, Reed thought about his journey. From a simple metals trader to a figure who helped reshape galactic civilization. But his greatest pride wasn't in the changes he'd led. It was in knowing that those changes would continue long after he was gone. The galaxy had learned that true progress comes not from controlling resources or hoarding knowledge, but from sharing them freely. And that lesson, like humanity's story in the stars, was just beginning.